people like Sam Harris who, by citing specific Old Testament laws, claims that the Bible is rife with immorality and we can therefore not derive genuine morality from it?
Well, he's not the only one, of course. Sam Harris, who Dawkins said answered the question of where we find our morality. When I read Harris's book, I said, what on earth is Dawkins talking about? There are no answers. He just talks about our well-being, and the question is why? Why should I seek my well-being? Why cannot just seek my... He's playing God in telling us what well-being is. Now, with all due respect, these are bright minds, these are sharp minds, and are we allowed to talk, Ruth, about the program that's coming out on the 21st? Yeah, on the 21st, because we were cautioned not to. I've just finished an interview with Ben Shapiro, and that'll be played on the 21st. And Ben and I talked about his friendship with Sam Harris. You know, I won't describe what exactly Ben said, but Ben, of course, is very much a conservative person as far as our morals are concerned. Here's what I say. Anybody can take a fragment of any material and make it seem idiotic if they know how to do it well. I can take any worldview and make it look totally idiotic if I chose to. The Bible is a progressive revelation from a covenant relationship to a particular people, to moving beyond to the death on the cross and the gospel going out to the Gentiles. To take one passage in a covenant relationship, if he is going to take that portion to be true, then he also has to say the proliferation of miracles was true. You can't selectively say this destructive command is true, but the miracles are not true. They all come in the context of the abundance of God's intervention. And when you have a plurality of miracles intervening in your life, and you're cautioned not to violate all that evidence, then when the judgment comes, you can't say, this is unfair. Because with the proliferation of miracles came the abundance of responsibility. When that responsibility was not there, the judgment was just as cataclysmic as the intervention of the miracle was. So he has to take it in the whole context, not just pull out something like that. As for Dawkins, who thinks very much of the Harris thesis as well, Dawkins knocks God in talking about him as being this and that, a series of epithets that describe him as being cruel and murderous and genocidal. I don't have the vocabulary he has to say all of that stuff. But he doesn't believe that God exists. So if that God doesn't exist, who's he talking about? He's talking about us, humanity. But he already said there's no such thing as evil. Talk about digging a grave verbally. He says this is the kind of God that is, but then he says this God doesn't exist, so that means evil exists in your heart and mind. We're the ones who are the genocidal people. But then he turns around and says there's ultimately no such thing as good or evil. We're all dancing to our DNA. What happened to his original thesis? This self-destructive philosophy of Norm Geisler used to say, most of his opponents were better at smelling rotten eggs than laying good ones. And say, God, they go around sniffing out all these problems, decontextualize them, and make them look like a straw man. That's not who our God is. Why doesn't he talk about the cross and the evil that Christ came to overcome and for forgiveness? So Sam Harris and these others who are trying their best to give a naturalistic explanation for evil, none of them has come out with one iota of a positive, logical, rational defense of what good and evil are all about. They just change the terminology and change the terms. The best-known atheists, Richard Rorty, and even a person like Russell admitted, you can't really talk about these categories and go of good and evil without an ontic referent of a vertical, transcendent point of reference. It all becomes self-reflecting language, and I don't believe that's what good and evil really are.